not a king, I am not a god, I am worse. Now, I am the world ender. Snuff out the light. I shall make darkness eternal. Like the soothing hum of insects at dusk. I am doomed! I seek is death.
Hello and welcome to LXC Season 2 Summer Split Draw Show. It's obviously only a draw show for 2 of the divisions, but I'm excited to draw the teams live on air for those groups. It's going to be for Arbiter and for Crusader. And every time I see a new intro from Vishara, I'm so amazed at what's going on and like how much she's improved everything and improved on her own skills. It's going to be me, Scarlet Q, with my fellow co-host.
Hello, I'm Pradles. I am here joining Scarlet, I should say. And yeah, I'm excited to see how these groups turn out tonight.
Yeah, and we're just gonna go in order. So it's gonna be Arbiter, Sentinel, and then a break, and then Crusader, and then Warden. And I think for Arbiter, we should just get into it to see which teams go into which groups. Now, I believe we have a fancy little wheel coming up. And then also we've got a guest for Arbiter specifically to just talk about the teams a little bit. From which team are you from? It's Toxin. And I believe they are from
TD is what I'm seeing.
Yep, I'm from TD Harmony.
Nice.
But TD
oh my gosh, what a cool wheel.
Harmony split too, though.
All right. Yeah, so this is our little wheel. We're going to talk about the teams as they come up. But are you ready to spin, Pradles?
I'm ready, and a little clarification, there are 3 TD teams. If 2 of them get placed into the same group, the third is going to automatically get placed into the other group. So, before we spin, just wanted to clarify that real fast.
That should be our only, like, little asterisk thing. Except for also Jolly Rogers, which is the same thing. They only have 2 teams. No matter what, once one gets placed in one group, the other one will get in the other group automatically, so they cannot play each other. But for TD, technically 2 of them are going to be playing each other no matter what. So kind of curious which ones are ready for that rivalry. Yeah, are we ready to spin the wheel?
I think we're ready. Let's go. See what the first team going into Sector 1. Like the names of it. Spin
There are a
that
lot of
wheel.
teams on this wheel, by the way.
There are a
So
ton.
we're going to talk about them pretty quickly. Immediately, we're with Swashbucklers, Jolly Rogers. I believe that all of these players are new to LXC. I don't recognize any of them from previous times. And I'm excited to see mostly how they handle their first split here, especially with so many subs already. I guess I only got 2 subs, but still, always interesting to see where new teams go into leagues like this.
Yeah, I think Swashbucklers is a new org. It's actually someone that used to work with me really heavily, Rex. He's the new owner of this new org. Swashbucklers is a pretty interesting roster. Uh, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that's Little Rodney coming back to competitive in ADC, which is a
Hmm.
fantastic player. He used to do content way back in the day. It was hilarious. I hope he brings that back. And it's a roster I'm looking to see how high they can climb up in their first split. They also have a coach, Kalen, who has done some really good work for one of the TD teams in the past. So really good coach, really good ADC. Excited to see where this team can get to.
Oh yeah, 100%. But so now by picking the Swashbucklers here, we do know that the Broadside Buccaneers are going to be in the other sector. So I guess we can talk about them. I'm not sure if we will have to roll
Oh.
them later or anything.
We
So
lost the wheel. Oh, wheel's back.
so this org is coming in with 2 teams. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yes, Jolly
I
Rogers.
believe so. Yeah, the second
Yeah,
team,
and
the Broadside Buccaneers. I'm a little bit lower on them than the Swashbucklers. They seem very very new to competitive. A lot of their
mhm,
players have never really stepped on the rift for amateur before. The one talent that they do have that has been around for a bit is Reximus. But
mhm.
between Reximus and Little Rodney, I have a little bit more faith in Rodney carrying a team than Reximus. But I will say that roster, like the vibe should be great. And, even if they get out to a rough start, I feel like they're going to pull it together and have a strong back half.
Yeah, I already see some great names to pronounce for casting. This hashtag meow person. I'm gonna have to translate their name. So obviously you guys can't see the roster, but there is a name in a foreign language. I believe is that Chinese or Japanese? I think either way, that one's gonna be interesting. Okay, so we're gonna have the teams on the sector soon. I think we're going to be ready to roll again, however. But yeah, a lot of these rosters are new, and I think it's really exciting at this level to see new rosters, or not new rosters, new orgs, because they have so much room for growth, and the synergy, you can actually just see it improve over time, whereas like the higher levels, it's not as clear, like the synergy might be overtaken by just player skill. But in this case, like the player skill is so in an interesting spot that like can really show synergy shining above whenever they do get that synergy. Are we ready to spin the wheel again, production? Okay, let's spin again. Again, we've got Jolly Rogers for sector D1 and D2, so 1 and 2, O2. It's not going to show immediately, but we'll keep you updated with that. But let's spin the wheel.
So the spin is for Sector 1, correct?
I believe, yeah.
Yes. Of the Jolly
Can we get
Roger
a
team, correct?
clarification? Yeah. Okay, so TD Royal again. Again, there are 3 TD teams, so we don't know for sure what this means for the other TD teams. But Royal is going to go into Section 1. Let me try to keep all of these TD teams straight. For Royal, I remember some of these players. Good to see them coming back. JFK is coming back, for example, in top lane. I remember it casting a lot of games that revolved around JFK. But this roster is pretty much the same from last split, right? Like there's a few changes, but the core is still there.
Yeah, the funny thing
Uh,
about Royal is that the last year or last split, TD Poro was the team that won the entire league. But honestly, TD Royal is the reincarnation of TD Poro. I know it's a little confusing, but a lot of the members that won that split last split, a lot of those players are on Royal. You have JFK in the top lane, Decipher in support, Verinda in the jungle. So a lot of names you might be recognizing, and they should be a team that wants to reclaim their title at the top.
Yeah, well, they might have to fight TD Poro because of the 3 TD teams. We'll have to see. But either way, putting them in Sector 1 is nice to see some old faces along with the new. Now, for this next roll, are we moving on to Sector 2 again, or are we doing Sector 1 all the way down? Let's get that clarification. Okay, so we are going to go back and forth. Yep, so we're going to go Sector 2, Sector 1, Sector 2, and then again, if we roll TD, if we roll TD in Sector 2, it won't matter. But if we roll TD again for Sector 1, the last TD team will be in Sector 2. So let's get another spin. It's so nice to see LXC grow to the point where we have multiple teams and multiple groups. We're going to go with Team Siren, Boys Suck. Kind of interesting to see what this team's going for. Going with a name that's kind of infamous almost in the league. So I haven't actually heard much about this org at all. I can kind of see where they're coming from though. Not 100% sure, but I have some estimations. And I think it's really cool to go for something like that. Like some people might say that it's you know, a gimmick or whatever, but I think it actually shows that you're willing to really pick up the people that have been left behind by a lot of these scenes, especially in the amateur brackets where it's really hard to do networking and get in whenever you don't just like go, oh, well, I'm challenger, so put me on a team. You know, you've really got to advocate for yourself, and a team like this is exactly what these kind of teams, what these kind of orgs need, or like LXC, for example.
Yeah, this is the kind of team that so I actually know some of the people on this team, and basically what happened is Wooly Bully came to Swag and was like, "Hey, I have these friends. I have these friends. I want them to come in. I want to have a team. Do you want to hop in and have one last kick at the can?" And Swag's like, "Of course, baby. Anytime for you." So Swag and Wooly, they're the two big names that have been around the scene for a long time, and they've brought in a couple other people, a couple of new talent to the league. I think one person really to watch out for on this team is their mid laner. This dude can either go 20-0 or he can go 0-20. He's that much of a coin flip player, but when he's on, he might be the best spin laner in the league. He's got some real talent there.
Yeah, I like to see that in mid laners at this level because it really is something that will translate whenever they are able to move on in the future, like get synergy with their team. Where like you don't want a mid laner that can just play safe. You want a mid laner that sometimes can just draw bans and win the game for you whenever things aren't banned. You know, especially if you have a hashtag like Zed. I'm expecting Zed to be somewhere in Champion Select for Team Siren in many games.
Yep, probably in the ban phase, but it's
Unfortunate.
it'll be there. It'll be there.
All right, so Team Siren's going in Sector 2. Let's go back to Sector 1. And let's spin the wheel. Okay, so it looks like we are getting the two TD teams, Poro and Royal. Poro technically the champions of last split, but Royal with most of their members, and they're going to be fighting each other to see who can really take on that mantle. And this, of course, does mean that Harmony will be in Sector 2. So let's talk about Poro first. Again, this is our previous champions of Arbiter. Now, for the members of the team, I think I recognize Hoodie Man, but a lot of these names are pretty new, or at least changed names. Do you recognize any of these names, Fradles?
I do recognize the High Me Goose. I'm not 100% sure why, but I do remember that name specifically standing out to me.
Yeah, so like
That's
I think putting these two in the same group is probably like the best case scenario for the league. I feel like these two are
Agreed,
the
for the
ones that kind of
storylines.
have, yeah, they have the biggest rivalry considering like one is Poro from last year and the other one's just named Poro because it's Hoodie's team. Hoodie's brought in a lot of people that he used to play with, and has really like taken this team. They've been together the longest, uh, scrimming for the last couple months now. I think Hoodie's definitely the man to watch, but see if he can get a lead top side, maybe bot side, and I think I think if anybody can carry this team, Hoodie will get them there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Hoodie can carry on the mantle of TD Poro, or if perhaps his other teammates will take that on. The rivalry is going to be exciting for the split. Now, for TD Harmony, again, they didn't get rolled, but that's your team, right, Toxin?
Yeah, Harmony's my team, so I'm in the jungle. I'll run it down. Don't worry. But
Good, good. That's what we like to see in LXC.
but it's okay. Even though we have the worst jungle in the league, I think my laners will be able to carry me. Have a
Ah,
couple of
perfect.
different
Nice.
players that have been in the scene for a while. Uh, and newcomer Frost in the mid lane. He's the player to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mid lane is always an exciting time in LXC. Top lane is a lane in LXC, and then seeing where jungles go is also really cool. So, like we've mentioned multiple mid lanes, even the ones that we didn't mention, like Razors for Life. I remember a little bit. Like I think mid lane is going to be very exciting for Arbiter League for sure.
Yeah,
So because we put TD Harmony straight into Sector 2, we're going straight back to Sector 1 for rolling, and then I believe that is all the orgs with multiple teams, so we shouldn't have any other auto picks. So the rest of it will be up to the wheel. Let's spin it again. Oh, this is interesting. Rar names. I feel like Rar has been here every split and has always done something exciting. The last split, they definitely went off a little bit. And the most important thing to talk about with Rar, although I see all of these names are pretty much the same except for TBD. Don't know who that is. But you see the same roster as last time. Curious to see if they're going to take two smites again. Probably not. But this Doki character, it's really interesting because RAR is in every league, and I honestly believe that any one of them could take Doki at any time, just to spice it up a little bit. So a little curious to see what new stuff they're gonna bring to this league. Nice to see them in with TD Poro and TD Royal. Got some old names in there for sure. Gonna be used to playing each other. Um, and excited to see what they can bring to the league. Because if there's one thing RAR can bring, it's definitely creativity.
yeah, Roar's the wild card of the league for sure. I mean, they might swap their roster 20 times in the middle of the split. You'll never know. No one knows who's gonna step on the rift. They don't even know who's stepping on the rift. But if of the couple names to mention though, they do have Rookter on their team in the mid lane. Fantastic player. That's definitely the win con for that team. And then of course, if Doki steps onto the rift, Flash isn't coming. We're going all in. We're going Smite Ignite. We're going Smite Ghost. He's gonna find a way to innovate on the Rift, and he'll definitely make it a hard matchup for anybody he plays against.
It'll definitely be an interesting matchup in the jungle, no matter what game Doki is in.
For sure, for sure. And I know that teams aren't beholden to their roster, but it looks like they've at least put Rookter in the bot lane starting position. Now, technically, they can do whatever they want. Doki's jumped all over the leagues. They've got in some subs, and they've got 5 subs. So, anything could happen, but it'd be interesting to see if Rookter actually stick to that bot lane for once. Or whatever happens. I mean, honestly, I feel like they just roll a dice for which person gets which role, so we'll see.
They just spin a wheel like this, like, all right, you're going top lane today.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's go for another wheel spin for Sector 2, which seems to be a lot of our new teams so far. Okay. Not aware of this org as much, Riftbusters. Um, Kinda, so again, it looks like Sector 2 is just completely new rosters. Um, What do you know anything about Riftbusters? I'm looking for on their sheet, and it's kind of interesting. I don't think I recognize a single name.
So I believe their support Romeo, he's like insane. Like I looked at his op.gg and it was like everything was orange, like 6+ KDA. He's probably like the one op.gg that I looked at that was like, wow, this dude, he knows how to play support. He might be the best support in the league. Uh their top lane looked a little bit weak. They're one of their captains. I was told I needed to put in a little spice at the end, saying something like that. But I do think that if this team can come together and they can get their synergy going, I think they have a good shot of keep going up. To like make the playoffs, get things rolling. But they are still a very fresh team. I think most of them are just solo queue players that are playing comp for the first time. I believe their top is the only one that has played competitive before, and it was like 5 years ago. So outside of him, everybody's pretty new. So we'll see how quickly they get adjusted.
Well, I will say in LXC history, I was part of a team whose strategy was to send the top lane to go 0-5 in the first 10 minutes. So some would say top lane, if you got a bad, or not a bad top lane, but a top lane that likes to maybe run it down, maybe make some interesting plays. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can still do pretty well. We did end up making playoffs. And yes, we did feed in playoffs, and it worked out somewhat. So
Or
really
champ.
interested to see Sector 2. Again, like I think if you're looking for highlight matches to watch, you can go to Sector 1 for your tried and true, but Sector 2 is looking to be new people all around. Speaking of Sector 1, let's go back to them for one more spin, please.
Also, I believe there's a bit of a rivalry between JR and
Oh.
Riftbusters, so I think
Mm-hmm.
that might be a nice little matchup to put on the stream.
Nice. Okay, Avalanche. Again, it looks like a new team. It's really exciting how many teams have just been picked up for LXC because, I remember last split we didn't have nearly this amount. looking at the op.gg, I just wanted to point this out because I've been looking at mid laners. There's a lot of ASOL, and that champion, oh boy.
Yeah, this team, I think, if there's one team that I was a little bit worried about playing against, it would be this OSG team. I have some of my friends that I've played in competitive. They've played with the jungler. He was really, really good. And for players that were at the top of one of the other IBSG leagues just under a month ago, just less than a couple months ago, they said they played against this team and it was very close. So that was 3 months ago. Now I can only imagine how good they are. I know they have a couple of plat players on the team. They're one of the only teams that actually have multiple plat players on their roster. I think this team is a title contender.
Mhm, absolutely. Let's go back to Sector 2. Not many teams left. Look, Puff and Sons. What an interesting name to bring to LXC. Yeah, so Puff and Sons again looks a little new to the league, but they've got quite the roster. I see 9 players listed here, which is always fun to see. I'm not sure if they're gonna do it quite right like Raw, where like you just don't know who's showing up until they show up. But at the same time, I mean, that is a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, I think the strategy here is intimidation, right? So what Excel wanted to do was look at this. All right, we're gonna take the best players in all of IVSG history, and we're gonna put them as our subs, and they're never gonna play. So just what? Be worried because if these players they could hop in, but if they don't hop in, the base roster that they have as their starters, I think they'll be a really strong roster, probably one of the top rosters. If they do sub in, I would be a little bit more worried. I have had in the past rosters where it was like an 8-man starting roster and just whoever hops in, which can work for regular season, but when it gets to playoffs, then that's when things could get a little bit dicey. So
Yeah, I'm
so
curious to see if they'll slim down to 5 regular people or 6, you know? I do like the flexibility of having multiple players, especially whenever you're talking about players that may have a bit more honed in. Like, you know, I've got my mage player, I've got my assassin player or whatever. But at the same time, like you said, it's really hard to build that synergy if you're showing up with a different team every week.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you get to the playoffs, and it's like, okay, who's starting? We have 7 players that all want to play, and then having to make that decision of like, sorry, you were really good for us 3 out of 5 weeks, but it's this player should be playing because he's technically the starter. That's when it gets really hard as a team manager.
All right, just 5 teams left. I believe that we are going back to Sector 1, which will be the slightly bigger section. Let's roll again. Trash Panda is such a sick name. So Trash Panda with Tyler NA1. Wonder if that's an AD carry player. Actually set as our mid laner, which is really funny. I guess the Tyler one did go all 5 roles. Either way, some interesting names, and curious if you have any inside info on any of these players. I think I remember Atomic Rider previously, but I might be having a misremember.
Yeah, I mean, this team also has like the potential to probably win the league. There's a lot of good players on this roster. You have Pandorum, you have Trashy, you have uh, Narwhal. A lot of names that have been on top rosters in the past. My only concern with this roster is that they're all playing roles that they're not known for. Like, I think Trash is playing top lane, even though he's like a jungle mid lane main. Pando is a mid lane main that's playing jungle. I think Tyler was a jungle main that's now playing mid. So they have a really strong roster. They have a strong core, but they're all playing different roles. So I don't know how good they're all going to do in different roles, but they definitely have the potential.
You know, sometimes when you learn your second or third role, the things that you bring from the first one can really help, especially whenever you're like at this level where, you know, the top tier junglers cannot know 100% of bot lane because like they need to know the basics, but it's going to be a lot for that. But at this level, you know, knowing the basics of bot lane, basics of support really actually help you in jungle. Same thing for knowing what basics of jungle for top lane. So you're not just sitting top lane and going gank me, gank me, gank me, but actually setting up plays for your jungle or being willing to play that role where you're like, you know what? I've been that jungler before that never wants to go top lane. I'm going to be as safe as possible and my jungle gets to have free reign and it's going to suck for me. But I chose to play top lane and that's what top lane is. Not any of my personal feelings, but regardless, really
Until the jungler shows up for the 5th time before 10 minutes.
right. And then you're like, you know what? I know as a jungle main, like my jungle is getting super ahead if I don't die. But wow, I kind of want to just type /FF a little bit, you know? Not to actually FF, just to show my team, like, hey, my mental is going a little low. Can we pick up this piece, you know?
Yeah.
Regardless.
I definitely
Anyways,
know
the point is multi-rolling is really powerful for some of those things. However, of course, you've got the obvious issues where yes, you are jungle main who maybe hasn't CS'd under tower the most, or you know, doesn't understand how the top lane got to a crash that you can dive off of. And now you're sitting there like, what are these minions doing? I don't understand. Usually they just let me hit them.
Fair enough. Yeah. Oh, I also will say the Atomic Rider on that team. Uh, Someone said in the chat that he needed like 92 games or something before he's eligible. If he is stepping into a starter role in the top lane, like halfway through the split, this team like might be the team to beat. I think Atomic
Yeah.
Rider is an insane top laner, and if all of the role swaps go back to normal, yeah, this team's gonna be dangerous.
Okay. Let's roll again. We're getting down to the last ones. And this will be again for Sector 2.
Tingent
For sure.
Red.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I was actually just looking at the OP.GG for I'm Stealthy, and this looks like some spicy picks in the mid lane. Talking about mid laners, so might as well keep that open. I'm seeing a bit of
Oh.
Graves in there. Haven't seen that one in a while.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit into Fury, Silence Jungle game in there. Looks like that would be a spicy matchup to watch, no matter who he's playing against. I'm excited for that one.
I don't think we've had Neferi in LXC yet because she came out during last split, I believe, and then she wasn't very good. But nowadays, Neferi is looking a little up. I would be excited to see someone who's like taking the time on this champion and comes out the gates with a champion that no one has on their ban list and really makes it work.
Yeah,
Remember
that's the other
playing
thing.
solo queue.
No one knows how to play against it too, so it'll be nice.
Exactly, yeah.
But this
And
team is definitely really strong, good roster. I think a lot of the people on this team seem to be pretty new. I've seen Fizzban play, uh, and the main person on this roster, that the big standout, is Queen Frost in the AD carry role. So I would like to see how they can do with a pretty fresh, new to competitive roster. Um, I'm a little bit worried on like how high they can go, what their ceiling is. But I do think if there is one person that I would trust with a newer roster, I would say it would probably be Queen Frost. They know what it takes to win. Former two-time EDL champion or EDL champion, EDL All-Star. I think that player, they know what they're doing.
yeah, it's nice at this level to have someone who is like in the bot lane and knows what's going on because bot lane is where you want that stability. Sometimes you want your mid lane to pop off, sometimes you want your top lane to kind of do top lane things. But bot lane, if you can just get someone who can play team fights well and lane okay, then and has some experience in competitive, I feel like especially in coordinated play, bot lane is so different than solo queue. So having someone there who isn't moving from solo queue to competitive for the first time is really powerful.
Hmm. They definitely can jump on his back and he'll just carry them across the finish line. I believe in him.
All right, shall we spin the wheel again? Or...
Yes, absolutely. We're moving back to Sector 1. And there are only 3 teams left. I can start to go in for the Dynasty, Eclipse. Got a lot of names on here. 6 for the starting roster. And again, I think this org is new to LXC because I don't recognize any of these names. But I apologize. Actually, we're Split 1 champions. I was not here for Split 1, so or at least not casting for Split 1, especially Arbiter. But excited to see them back. And in Sector 1, where there are a lot of teams that have that title, which is having a previous title in LXC.
Yeah, Dynasty, they're mainly known for their upper division teams, like Plat, Emerald, that sort of thing. But this is the first time I'm really seeing them put in an IBSG team. The good news about that is they have so many people in their org that they can call for or call on to like have coach that team. So no matter where they start, I can definitely see as long as everybody is buying into the system, their ceiling could be through the roof. That being said, I don't really know many people on this roster, but I do know that their top and jungle depth is insane. I know Pitifuls and Scramble, both of them in the top lane are very, very strong top laners, as well as they have Propane Pimp in ADC, which is a bit interesting considering he just won slash all in the jungle role about less than a month ago. So seeing him role swap is a little bit interesting. That just means that their jungle on that team, even though I don't know who they are, the bar is better than someone that won a league. So I have pretty high hopes in their top lane and their jungle, and we'll see if the rest of the roster they all shake out and become one of the best.
Yeah, it's interesting because jungle and AD carry don't sound like they have much crossover. Yes, you're still setting up waves but you would expect that like you would move from jungle to mid, top, or support almost before AD carry. So I am kind of curious how that goes.
You'd be
Yeah.
surprised depending on which you play. I think kiting really transfers
True.
between AD carry and jungle.
True.
At least one skill will
Unfortunately, the
carry somewhere.
champions tend to have a little bit more ability to get on you than camps, but I don't know. Sometimes those camps have hands, so I guess you're right. Um, regardless, we've only got 2 teams left, so we're gonna talk about them both. But let's see which one gets placed into Sector 2 and which one gets placed into Sector 1. All right, we're talking about Monarch first, because they are going into Sector 1.
Sector 2.
Sector 2, sorry. Just a little caught up because there's one more team in Sector 1. So, Monarch also, are they a new org to LXC? And they actually been here for quite a while. And exciting to see them back in Sector 2. I don't recognize any of these names previously, but I didn't do much of Arbiter casting before.
Conduit is a lot similar to Dynasty, where like they've been Platinum, Emerald, higher level org, and this is one of their first times stepping into IBS on their own, IBSG. Definitely some names that they can draw for to help coach this team, help bring them up, and I do like their bot lane. Feels Panman and Brigade. They seem very strong on paper. However, a lot of the names they're all new to competitive, so we'll see how they do when they actually step on the Rift as a team.
Yeah, from Fields Panman, I'm seeing some interesting champions. Other than the random jungle games, there's the standard easy carries, but then there's the Corki and Ezreal once he was buffed, and then the Brand and Varus, which would be very exciting to see in Uxie and coordinated play because I feel like those champions are much better there than they are in solo queue. All right, so we don't have. Okay, we're gonna spin anyways. I wonder what it's gonna be. Oh, it's tactical feed. Wow, how unlucky for them. But tactical feed is gonna be going into Sector 1, the bigger sector. Do you have any information about this team?
Tactical feed, there are a lot of new players as well. Their mid laner Billy, he's a plat player, so that already puts him in contention as one of the better mid laners in the league. I think the Feldroth top lane was another person that I thought looked very promising. I did have some question marks about support in the bot lane. Uh, I'm not quite sure how well that is gonna go. I think they were a little bit lower in the solo queue, like maybe in iron bronze players. But if you know what, rank is just a number, all right? Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes even if you're iron, you come into the league, and as long as you're able to play well with your team, sometimes that's all it needs. That's all you need to do. Or that's all
And
you
it
need to
has to
win.
be said, solo queue is definitely a different game than coordinated play. Like, yes, it will transfer over. Like, I'm not saying a bronze player is going to 100% do as well as a platinum player, but sometimes, you get that bronze player in there and they have the shot calling from another team member, they have the coordination, and they have the ability to play safer or just, more coordinated plays, and they really shine. So, I think rank definitely is a factor, obviously, but it's not everything for sure.
Also, just since we're talking about junglers, Red-faced Beast, the bot laner for tactical feed, looks like he's mostly a jungler player in solo queue. So that'll be interesting to see how it shapes up in this league. See a lot of jungle games in this solo queue.
Apparently, the jungle AD carry overlap is higher than I thought for around Arbiter.
I mean, I used to be
But
an
either
ADC
way,
jungle now. I
either way,
found out I
the
know I'm
sectors
his.
look. The sectors look really fun. The spin the wheel section, by the way, should be JR. I'm trying to remember which one of the JR teams. Obviously, the other one. The swashbucklers. Yeah. So that is a slight error on our production, but other than that, you can see the sectors right there. Some really interesting names in Sector 1. I think Sector 2, however, might surprise you. you've got your team, TD Harmony, sure, and then just some new names, especially the Riftbusters, Puff and Sons, and then some old names too. So, yeah, I was wondering, Red Face Bees, I feel like I cast them before. I didn't want to say anything because I thought, my memory's not great on names. But they did play AD Carry before. So I think, Jungle and solo queue, maybe that's just a little... Sometimes you get frustrated playing AD Carry and solo queue, but they've definitely got some experience playing AD Carry. Regardless, I don't know what this wheel is, but the
Yes and no.
sectors are set.
Yes or no? Yeah, I
Yes
think
or no?
Sector 1 is definitely the group of death. I think I made a quick power linkings before I hopped in the stream, and I think 4 of my top 6 is in Sector 1. So if that's any indication, I think there's a couple good players over there.
Yeah, but Sector 2, that's the kind of nice thing. You're not in the group of death. Sometimes you can just pull away and show that you've actually shined above all these other teams because you really put yourself ahead of them. And then the question is, you haven't played Sector 1 at all because you're a new org. What will happen whenever the teams meet in playoffs? So it'll be kind of
Exactly.
interesting to see how power rankings go through. Like, can you tell which team from Sector 2, if they're the best team, where would they be in Sector 1? Or will you have to wait till playoffs to find out? So it's interesting because Sector 1 has more teams and it feels like it has the more, known names, known entities. Both sectors will have 5 teams move on. So that means one extra team won't make it from Sector 1. So it'll be really competitive in there. Meanwhile, Sector 2, again, they won't be playing Sector 1 until playoffs. But you're definitely going to see some people make a name for themselves over there.
Yeah, I definitely think like if you're a lower seed in seed 1, like maybe you're the 4th seed in Sector 1 going into playoffs, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I would still say like, look, maybe the rosters that you had to play against were a bit harder than the other division. Maybe once you hit playoffs, you can start hitting your stride, going against maybe an easier team for your first round matchup, and just carry that momentum all the way into playoffs. I've seen teams that weren't a threat heading into playoffs just hit their stride, hit their momentum, and then just go
Oh,
from there.
absolutely.
So,
Playoffs is just a different beast. So you see it even in professional play. And I feel like at amateur play, it comes out even more because people are like, okay, I'm going to push off my work a little bit, going to push off all the other things in my life that I do to sustain myself. We're going to focus on League for a little bit and really play a best of 5 and focus in,
for sure.
Okay, speaking of focusing in, I think we're ready to move on to Sentinel. Now, we're not going to have a fun little wheel for Sentinel because there aren't as many teams as there were for Arbiter. But we are going to talk about all of the teams, including the first one alphabetically, which is the best name so far, I can tell, is Engi, which I've already seen in the chat a few times. So I think people are aware of the team name. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to pronounce it like like Engi. I don't know, like an emo. But it does seem like a very fun name to cast, so I'm gonna have fun with them for sure.
If you look on there, you'll see the manager is a name that some of us recognize in Dira. So she's got her own organization, New Origins, so not exactly a brand new team, but it's definitely fun to cast. It should be good to watch. I've been seeing Dark Lord Bingus' name in the chat already. They're already bringing back their copy pasta. They are spamming chat. Love to see it.
I
Yeah.
do love that
Outrage.
Sadness is on Engi as well.
Yeah, right. That is very ironic.
I think Outrage is definitely a player to watch as well. That guy, he can take a team to a championship. I've seen it before.
Yeah, okay, here's another team name that was the talk of the commentary before we went live. Braum Lives Matter, taking a very social approach, social stance that Braum is a really important champion. Now, if you look at Tiny Hippo Society, their starter support, how many Braum games are there? Not as many. But, maybe that'll change whenever we get into comp play.
I'm hoping that they pick it every single game, and if the enemy team picks it, they can't kill the Braum, right? Like they gotta keep that Braum alive the entire time. Because everybody knows Braum lives matter.
Braum
Yeah,
lives
of
matter.
course. And sometimes, it's not about the Braum champion on your team. It's about the spirit of Braum overlooking you as you make sure to play together, be strong, and the heart is the strongest muscle, So
Oh yeah,
hopefully they
definitely.
can keep that in mind.
Maybe it's like it's a fear tactic too. It's like I know no one on our team has it on their OP at all whatsoever, but you probably should ban the Braum, right? Like we'll play a top lane, we'll play a jungle, Braum made carry, it's coming in.
Yeah, let's bring
They'll
out that
find a way.
attack speed Braum. That is always a fun one to play. Just hail of blades and instant stun people.
In my nightmares, I'm so scared.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun time. Gotta love. So, moving on to the next roster alphabetically, we got another Conduit team. We got Conduit Prime in their Plat Emerald, I guess, team. I see No Name. I've been seeing his name pop up in chat today.
Yeah, a lot of players are excited to see where they get into the sections, or for Sentinel case, just seeing what we can say about their names and their solo queue records.
Yeah, No Name's
I mean,
interesting. He's more of a mid lane player that's stepping into the jungle, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. But there's a lot of names on here that I recognize from Arbiter, and they got some talent. That's all I'll say. They have some talent.
Well,
They have the
one thing I want
ability.
to point out is their starting roster has Razors for Life. Now, again, these are not final and they are not beholden to this because the captain is Razors for Life, who is also on TD Royal for Arbiter. So it's kind of interesting to see if that will stay and just like Razor's going to play 2 days in a row, kind of like Doki did back in the day. Or if they're going to choose to get someone more permanent for that roster that can focus entirely on that roster.
I believe it's the other way around. I think the conduit roster is like the main roster for him, whereas
Mhm.
the Poro, because his talent belongs up here. I think
Yeah.
he's eligible for Arbiter, but I think this league will be a better test for him. That is true.
Yeah. So again, since Poro won last time, and TD Royal is not the name successor, but the spiritual successor with most of the players from Poro, he did win Arbiter last time. I wonder if he can bring that to Sentinel, or bring it back to both for at the same time, just completely dominating both.
Yeah, what's better than one championship than two? Like, just win
Mhm.
both. It's okay.
true, true. Yeah, why not? Why not just win both, Forehead?
All right. So
Right.
next organization is Dropping Point Hellfire. I've been spending some time with these players, and I'm kind of excited what they bring to coordinated play.
Let's talk about the
This I
names.
bel
I love the names right
well,
here in minimap already in the mid lane.
GG.
one thing
Top
I
lane. I
will
love
say,
this
I
shit.
believe that there are 3 org owners on this team. Last I heard, I could be wrong about that. They could have changed that, but we've got 1404 Rico, which is the owner of Dropping Point, and then I believe there are 2 other org owners on this team. So it's definitely a hodgepodge of something going on over there. Kind of curious how that goes. Sometimes it's too many cooks in the kitchen. Sometimes it's like org owners want to try seeing what it's like on the other side.
Yeah, I definitely see Attila here, owner of Hyperion Gaming. Not quite sure who the third one is, but yeah, this definitely looks like a roster that could just boom in 3 weeks because there's so many cooks in the kitchen. They're like, I don't know, man. I think we should do this. So they're like, no, I think we should do the opposite. But that being said, like strong personalities also can get strong results because they're all gonna be wanting. They all have the drive to win. So we'll see if it's a boom or bust situation, but we'll see how it goes.
The next team has seen a lot of time on LXC, partially because 2 of them have been on cast before. We're talking about Needlessly Large Rods. We were talking about their name earlier because they had to possibly change that for a different um, division. Now, this team doesn't have a full roster yet, so it's hard to speak exactly about what's going to happen with them. But from what I have seen, I mean, they've got consistency in using Q4U and UB Awesome. So These are players that were here all last split. They're going to show up again with some mid laner. And kind of interesting to see how that evolves as it goes on.
Yeah, one thing interesting about them is that using Q for you is actually more of a jungler. So he's role swapping the split to top lane. And like you're saying, Uba awesome. He's very consistent. He's definitely an 80 carry to look out for in this league. And yeah, I'd agree with him in the bot lane. It's going to be definitely a strong bot lane. So we'll have to see how that goes. Keep an eye on them. I think they're going to be Soup the mid. I thought Soup was support.
Well, again,
Alright,
this is their reported rosters. They're not beholden to this. And,
Yeah,
players
fair.
love to mix it up all the time. So,
Yeah, the truth.
you can see this here. It doesn't mean much. We're not locking people in. If Doki wants to go support, if Doki wants to go top lane, he can do whatever. He can go to Warden if he wants. I've heard players say that he can. So the rosters, they'll evolve over time. We'll have to, keep track of them, see what stays, see what moves. And sometimes people do like a roll swap, and then after a few weeks, they're like, let's get a real top laner. I'm gonna go back to jungle.
We'll have to see. We'll have to keep an eye on them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Chris saying in chat, Doki is the GOAT for sure.
He definitely has probably the record for most games played in different roles. I mean, Jarnicus is close. Don't get me wrong. Which is also, I believe, on RAR, but just I guess that technically if Doki's gonna play everywhere, someone else has to also move. So I guess that tracks,
Yeah, it definitely tracks. What? There's more than 2 teams. Got like 4.
Yes. Speaking of the next team, we've got NLE Valkyries. So NLE, I believe, is an established org is what I've heard. I don't know too much about them personally. Does anyone else want to speak to that?
I know their top laner, Stop Cappin. Really nice guy, and he's very, very he has a really high drive for the game. Like I swear this guy, like, if you tell him like, all right, just go play like 12 games in a day for me, he'd be like, all right, I'll make it 13. Like that's the type of player.
Sure.
Really, really good drive, really nice person. I don't really know anybody else on this team. I will say this guy is one letter off my name. We got Toxic, and he's playing support. So maybe I gotta talk to him. We have to have a club of toxic names.
There's a reason there's a hashtag system. You share a name with a plenty of people, and you're just gonna have to get used to it, or you're gonna have to choose a more unique name. I'm sorry to tell you, Toxin probably registered quite a bit.
No, I'm saying it's a good thing. He's my new friend. I don't know who they are.
Like a club.
We'll make a club. It'll be fun.
Never seen anyone else using my same username, so
exactly. You gotta have some originality sometimes, but sometimes you don't, because you do get to meet people like same name.
Yeah, that's true. You see it every now and then, not often, but
here's another team that we just recently talked about. RAR. Doki is technically on the starting roster. I don't think that's what they're gonna go with for at least the first game, but you never know. Jonicus is on this roster as well, and I think I'm just gonna double check. I think they're on multiple rosters, but
oh man, I've been seeing Jonicus talking in chat, saying something he's a starter on 3 different roles. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, obviously RAR are finalists from last season though, from I believe Sentinel. I recognize Feather's name. I recognize Nox Lucifer. So we'll have to see. Definitely, any RAR game is always going to be spicy, especially if Doki's there. You just never know. It's always expect the unexpected when you're watching RAR, I think.
What I like about RAR is that sometimes they ask the basic questions, like, what do you do whenever the enemy team has 2 smites? As much as I kind of chided them for doing that 2 weeks in a row, a lot of these things don't work at higher level play because, they kind of have seen it all and can kind of coordinate like, okay, they have 2 smites. Let's do XYZ, do ABC, and then do the Z part, and then we win. But whenever you're talking about Sentinel, Arbiter, Crusader, Sentinel especially, sometimes Doki can just come with no flash, break all of the rules, do whatever build is crazy, top lane support, doesn't matter. And it's not supposed to be good, but at Sentinel, it works, And it doesn't just work because, like, the other team necessarily isn't good at doing the right thing. They're just not as flexible at doing the right thing in response to really, really weird questions. And, I think the one quote that I've heard from another game that really brings it home is like there's no wrong threats, there's only wrong answers. So sometimes you can bring threats, and if they don't have, they have to come up with the right answer. They can't just do what normally works, because sometimes things that are out of the ordinary actually challenge what works. And yes, there's an answer out there, but if you're not flexible enough to pick it up, then it's not going to work out for you just because a team higher than you could answer it easily and win the game in 20 minutes.
Just
I
point
agree.
out that the finals from last season too, it was a 5-game series, so
Mhm.
is definitely not one to sleep on.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that the teams that are against RAR, especially in playoffs, might need to review some basic league information like lane swaps. What happens whenever your jungler gets 0 gold? What happens whenever your top laner gets 0 gold? Anything, honestly. Just review the basics of league that we have taken for granted for 10 years. Just like this actually comes to pro play as well, because whenever European teams brought back lane swaps, everyone was like, that's not supposed to work. What are you doing? And it worked. So
Yeah, that is what's working. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I know though, the one consistent factor, the best looking for team posts in the entire world, Feathers and Fur, is on this team, so we all know it's gonna be a top roster. That's my thoughts anyway. I love Feathers.
okay, let's go to TD Plus, the penultimate team in this league. I was just looking at the mid laner. Looks like my kind of champion pool is Zero Kale, but I was just looking at them because their name is Riven. No Riven in their champion pool, but maybe that's just like name myself Riven, they'll ban Riven, or name myself Riven, they'll never ban Riven because I never play it, and then I bring it out for playoffs. You never know.
I believe they used to play it in top lane a few 2
hmm
years ago, but I don't know if he's gonna bring it out in mid lane. We'll see. But yeah, this roster definitely a strong one. One Hand is the captain of this team, and this team previously won OCL, their gold division last split. A couple of changes from that roster since then, but I'm pretty confident in this roster. A lot of people actually used to play for NSG as well, about 3-4 years ago, when that used to be a really big org. You have Barbaric Champion, the top lane, Riven, also known as the Runic Blade, or used to be known as the Runic Blade. Both of them plus One Hand, I think it'll be a strong roster.
And then our final roster, we've got Veracity here. And do you have anything to say about Veracity? Because I've got see some interesting names here.
I gotta say we're gonna win this league because this one is actually my team that I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
So watch out, other AD carries. I got Scarlet with me, not the Scarlet on cast with me, but my own friend Scarlet. And I honestly think we got Prowl. Actually, he was the winner from last season. He was on White Lotus. He was playing jungle for them, but he is role swapping actually to top lane this season.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna be one to look at. I think he'll do well. It'll be like that's a. What else can I say? I say we win, but that's my own bias.
Yep, completely unbiased. The prediction from the cast is Veracity wins. Either way, these teams, again, there's no draw because of the amount of teams, so they will all be playing each other. I'm not 100% sure on the playoff schedule, but it'll be nice to see every team play each other, unlike the other section. So, you will get to see everyone answer the raw question of what the heck they're going to bring and how do you answer it. And it might be something different every week. So,
Of course,
everyone's got to deal with
question,
that.
which summoner is Doki gonna bring? That's always the one you gotta
Right.
ask.
Not Flash, I can tell you that much.
The only consistency in that roster, Doki will not take Flash.
Yeah, so Sentinel looks really nice. I see some names that I recognize, but I also am excited for the names that I don't recognize. Clicked on the wrong thing for a second. But From Lives Matter, Angie got the best names in the league so far, I think. Although I guess maybe I'm just too used to RAR. RAR is a good name, even if I've seen it like 20 times every day for the last times I've cast the split, because they're everywhere. But it is a good name. So name aside, because that doesn't unfortunately link to who wins the league. Really, what we're gonna see is that the top 6 will go to playoffs, and the other 3 will unfortunately be out. So a lot of teams will make it to playoffs, which is really nice. I like to see a majority of teams in playoffs because, again, I feel like that's where teams really level up. So, play in the regular season just to get your seeding in, and then really focus down whenever you get to playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see which teams level up and which teams stay the same. Unfortunately, are left behind. I also do like the Veracity name. That's a top tier
Hey,
name. I enjoy it.
love it. I started it with Guild and WoW actually with that name a few years ago, and that's where I got it from.
Oh, nice.
Classic. Wow,
Yeah.
so League Pipeline is real. Anyways, that's our first 2 leagues. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with the wheel again for Crusader. And then we're going to talk about, for the first time ever, our Warden League, which will be our Diamond League, which is premiering Thursdays. So we will see you after a quick break.
I am not a king, I am not a god, I am worse. Now I am the world ender. Snuff out the light. I shall make darkness eternal. Like the soothing hum of insects at dusk. I am doomed! I seek is death.
Can you hear us? Are we here?
Okay, we're good. Okay, I made a really great joke. It's fine. Whatever. No big deal. I ain't angry about it. Welcome back to the Draw Show. We're actually gonna bring back the wheel, special guest. And we're gonna be rolling all the teams. Crusader, I feel like I recognize a lot of these players because I did cast around this level for last split the most. Let's get the wheel started.
Round and round we go.
Okay,
First team
so
going into Sector 1 is going to be NLE Marauders. Is that how you pronounce that? Marauder? I never know. That's a weird one.
either way, NLE again. Pulling them up because there's a lot of teams on this page. This is a team that I know a little bit about because I recognize Slayer. Slayer was a team member of I can't remember. I know that he was with Uwu Slayer because I remember always being confused between Uwu Slayer and Slayer, but they have split up this time. So I'm gonna be sad whenever the Cage Monkeys play Marauders if they're in the same thing, because then it'll be Slayer versus Slayer and that'll be confusing. But for now, it's just Slayer. Slayer Ints. And again, like I was saying, he got second place last time. I think that he can improve on that, honestly, because last time, the team didn't bring him in every game, but whenever they did, they put him on a carry AD carry. If they can really cultivate that and just play around their bot lane instead of only bringing him in sometimes, that might be a really strong roster. Now, the rest of these members, I don't recognize as much, so it'll be interesting to see how he integrates with a new team, especially if he is on that starting roster every game. But NLD Marauders will definitely be a team to watch.
Yep, and we see Toxic is also a sub for that team too. We talked about him a little bit
Mhm.
in Sentinel, and yeah, playing on both rosters, it'll be interesting to see if he wants to play 2 nights in a row. That can be exhausting. And we see, oh, Slayer is here. He put an uwu in the chat.
I think that might be the other Slayer, and now you see the issue. Now
Yeah,
you see the issue. Join me in this issue. One of them needs to change their name. Like whoever wins the split or gets higher in the split, the other one has to change the name. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. But
One who wins will be the true
either way,
Slayer.
either way, let's get on the wheel for Sector 2, and please put the Cage Monkeys in Sector 2 so I don't have to cast that to playoffs. Just kidding. Now, Summoners After Dark. Now, I believe we do not have any multiple orgs in this one unless someone didn't put the name for both. So no matter what, the role will
Sad
determine who goes where.
Bare minimum are from the same org.
So we've got Summoners After Dark. Now, I don't recognize any of these names, and that might just be my memory.
I mean, I
So
do
it'll
recognize Dark Lord Bingus because he's been in chats and he was on another roster. We'll look back and figure that out right now. But I do recognize that name at least.
Yeah, and the manager is Dira, which is the same manager of both Bare Minimum and in Sentinel. We talked about our favorite team name, Ingi, also had Dira. Couldn't quite come up with such a cool name. I mean, Summoners After Dark is close, but it's not peak.
Bare minimum to
But
Yeah, so Bare Minimum is also going to go to Sector 1 because Bare Minimum and Summoners After Dark are actually part of the same org. They're both from New Origin.
Gotcha. So Summoners After Dark, interested to see what happens. Dark Lord Bingus is only a sub, at least on the starting roster. So the other players will be new to the scene, at least LXC, as far as I'm aware. So I'm really interested to see what they can show off. And especially interested, okay, this is the caster thing. I will be especially interested in some pronunciation guides because wow. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about Bare Minimum real quick because these names are a little bit more recognizable. Dira is actually straight up on this org as starting support. And then Sadness is from Angie is also a sub here, just in case they need something like that there. It's always fun to have your manager, your captain, or your manager on your team. So kind of interested to see how that goes for bot lane, especially. And Bare Minimum will be right into Sector 1.
Let's get rolling. See which team is placed in Sector 2 now. Let's spin that wheel. So we got another conduit team. I remember, do they have one in every league?
They certainly have a lot,
but
they don't have one in Warden, our newest league. Now, I'm trying to remember if Yipsy was a support for previous splits because I feel like I recognize the name. Everything else is completely new to me.
I've definitely recognized the name Black Eyed Peas and Yipsy. I believe I may have scrimmed them once, but
yeah, definitely memorable. So Black Eyed Peas is only their support, so the rest of them are really going to show up new to LXC. And I'm excited again, Crusader, with having so many teams and having so many new teams because of how much LXC has grown. We're really going to see a lot of different, strengths and weaknesses and how these teams match up against each other.
Yeah, it's definitely be an exciting league to watch for sure. Crusader, that's the Emerald capped one. That's not quite to Diamond, but the players at least know a little bit about what they're doing to get to Emerald. So it'll be interesting to watch for sure, and definitely a bunch of teams to look out for so far.
Yeah, but let's go back to Sector 1, which has an interesting makeup so far. Again, with second place performing player, specifically Slayer, already in Sector 1. Let's see what other strength we can add to that one on the wheel.
Cross my fingers for the other Slayer to be added. Get the
No,
case
no,
monkeys in
no, you
sector
don't have to
one.
do that. No, that's okay. We can- At least they're not on the same team, okay? Like, no offense. Galaxy Gaming, however, we've got some interesting names over here. Still not many people that I recognize. I don't think Galaxy Gaming has been an org for LXC before, have they? And so completely new and excited to see what they can show us. I'm gonna look at their mid laner real quick because I feel like mid lane is gonna. Well, actually, maybe AD carry is the lane for this specific section with Slayer already showing up. You know, we've got not looking at the right person. I was like, wait a second, that doesn't seem right for bot lane. We've got an Emerald player in bot lane, plays a lot of nice ones, right? You like to see this around this level where you pick up the champions that maybe you don't want to pick up below Emerald, like the Twitch, the Jinx, well, Jinx less so, but the Aphelios especially. Gonna look at
Jinx just
solo
too OP.
duo though. Yeah, everyone should play Jinx. I don't care what rank you are, that champion. Really nice, really good to learn fundamentals, but I don't think we're gonna be talking about fundamentals here. And Galaxy Gaming is gonna slot in to Sector 1. Curious to see how this 9-man roster goes in. Again, this might be another one where they kind of funnel into 5 people, or you just never know who's showing up. So, one to watch to see what consistency happens. Let's spin the wheel again. Okay, so another team that I am not aware of the name of, but it's an interesting one. OMT Zeus. Completely new roster from what I could tell. Was Young Goblin in LXC before? I might be hallucinating, but that is only a sub. And I'm completely wrong anyways. So, again, completely new team. We're going to be hearing this a lot in Crusader. Probably Warden too, again, because Warden is a completely new level of play for LXC. But I think that all of this is really going... I mean, just bot lane feels like it's going to be so important for these teams just because of the meta. I mean, I guess lane swaps aren't necessarily happening at this level, especially if Riot gets onto it and fixes it. Please, Riot. But still, I think this is around the level where you see bot lane and jungle start to shine a little bit more. So let's see if any of those players can make a name for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at what's his name? Zeus's bot lane, their AD carry right now. I'm seeing a lot of different champs, so who knows what we're going to be seeing from them.
You know what, Emerald,
We
you can
plays
still
a
get
little
away
bit
with
of
the Dr.
everything.
Moon. Yeah, you can still get away with the Dr. Moon to bot lane if you try really hard enough. And, sometimes you need something like that to spice it up. Rarg isn't the only one that can bring stuff. At the
Bring
same
some
time,
spice to the league.
I would imagine if they are the starter AD carry, they probably will pick up more traditional AD carries. But you never know. I do like an AD carry that's a little bit more flexible because then they can play the champions that are less AD carry focused, like Seraphine, Jhin, Ashe even. I mean, I know people hate Seraphine, but still, like, being able to come from a mid lane, top lane, initiating perspective to play stuff like that, or even Tom Kitchen, your support play Senna, can really bring a lot of power to your team. So I wouldn't quite say that it's a complete negative that your AD carry doesn't have a lot of AD carry games in solo queue.
I'm not saying he doesn't have AD carry games. He just plays like every different AD carry.
Yeah, true. All right, let's go for another one for Sector 1. It looks like I've got some information from chat. Oh, I see. I'm sorry, that's my misinformation. We've got Shysta for AD carry, so that makes a lot more sense from their ranked. We do see some Sona games. Other than that, though, we expect them to bring out the Zeri, Sivir, and Ezreal, which is a lot more classic. Anyways, moving on to the wheel, what we just rolled as our favorite org to talk about every time. Rawr.
Always RAR. Love the name. They got a player, I believe it is the support player named Shaco. So maybe we'll get to see some support Shaco games out of them. That's always fun to watch. Played against it in solo queue a few times. It's always hit or miss in solo queue.
Yeah, this is some new names for RAR. Unless people change their name, like, I knew a lot of the RAR rosters going in, and I have not seen many of these names. I mean, obviously Doki is all over this. Like, he's a sub, he's the manager, the coach, which is great for them, and he probably will play at least one game. But everyone else, like, bringing in the RAR name and their talent and their coaches, but at the same time being new, will really shake up, I think, what this team means in Crusader, and might be a little bit different than the other RAR teams and all of the other leagues.
Yeah, that will definitely be an exciting one to look at. Since we're talking about the bot lanes, I'm seeing a little bit more standard Sivir, Caitlyn, Ezreal from these guys, from Mustard Gas in the AD carry position. So we'll see. We'll see. We will see what RAR decides to do with this. Maybe we'll get Doki subbing in for a game or two. It'll always be exciting. Maybe he'll play bot lane. I'd love to see it.
Okay. I did sneak a peek at the chat, and they were talking about Storm as the top laner, and I am kind of excited to see this top lane roster or champ pool. Like, yes, you've got the Renekton in the set, the typical top laners that I like to ignore even whenever they show up on camera. But then you've got the Camille, you've got TF, you've got Skarner, which I don't think is really viable anymore. But still, like, you're bringing some real spice to the top lane, and maybe even in play, there will be some exciting stuff for that for RAR.
You never know with RAR. They're always kind of the wild card. You never know what they're going to do next.
Yeah, maybe they'll just say, actually, Storm, you need to go support. RAR is going to bring in Doki for top. Probably not, though. Probably not, though. All right. Moving on to Sector 2 again. Let's spin the wheel again.
Ooh, so we got
Okay.
Contingent Yellow. Now, this is one, they also don't have a full roster on our sheet at least, but it looks like they do have a full 5 starting roster.
Yeah, so they've got 5 people. We just don't have all their OP.GGs. But honestly, from what I've learned from last split, is that OP.GG does not tell the full story. You really need to see these teams in action to be able to tell what's going to happen. I mean, I can tell the top laner, sure, is going to have some fun up there. Maybe we won't see all tank versus tank in this league. I mean, I guess they're in a different place than RAR. Still, yes, they do have a lesser known roster. There's a sodium hydroxide, which is interesting. So we'll have to see what they can bring to the org. But I think Crusader, the name of the game is going to be learning teams and teams learning each other. You know, if you go to Arbiter, you go to Sentinel, some of these teams have played each other so many times. You know, they've got kind of like a band sort of started already. They've got like, what are the important picks in this, even if they're not meta. But for Crusader, a lot of the time they're just going to be playing a team they've never played against before. Maybe they've scrimmed them once. So they're going to be going to their tried and true, the meta, what they can get from solo queue. But I think that the streamed games and the weekly games are really going to tell the story of this league, and it's going to build up over time from chapter 0.
Definitely. It's definitely a lot of new faces we'll be seeing in here, so it'll definitely be exciting. And like you said, the teams are going to have to learn the other teams.
Yeah, and that says nothing of the next league we're talking about, Warden, because Warden is higher than we've ever had before. So while, some people moved up there, it's going to be a lot of new names there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's spin the wheel again for Sector 1. Okay, so Divine Temple we've seen before. I don't think they brought a lot of their old players back. I mean, they've got 10 players on the roster, so who knows? We got Wushi Wu and Sub is the only name I recognize. I wonder if Wushi will show up sometimes.
I actually recognize FSG. I think I've scrimmed against him once or twice, but yeah, besides that, I don't recognize any names. We got Corn on the Cob, Crackhead, Tonic.
So regardless, I think Divine. I think Divine Temple has a title for this league previously, and they've certainly made high placements at least. Oh yeah, they won the charity event, of course. But they've also been a mainstay of playoffs, I believe. And even if Wushi Wu doesn't show up or FSG, we'll see what their influence has on the other side, on the other members that are going to show up, like Crackhead NRG and Corn on the Cob, which are going to be great names to talk about.
Yeah, that'll be fun to cast for sure. Wushi, Crackhead, Corn on the Cob.
mention again that we've got some legacy names on Sector 1 already with Divine Temple, RAR, even bare minimum having, some experience, maybe not in LXC. So Sector 1 looking like at least the more established side. Who knows if it's the Sector of Death yet, but it definitely will be one where the scouting is a bit more obvious what to do. All right, let's roll for Sector 2, though, see if we can get some known names in there.
Still cross my fingers for Caged Monkeys in Sector 1, just for you.
Of course. And that'll be like the first week matchup, of course.
Caster Curse, I called Caged Monkeys. I jinxed
Oh,
it right
nope.
there.
Okay, Slayer will not be facing Slayer until at earliest the playoffs. Now, again, some of these players I do know. Uwu Slayer in the mid lane did perform very well whenever I wasn't confusing him with Slayer in the EDK role. Iflock as well. I believe that those two players were on the team that got second with Slayer Ints. So, you've already got some pretty good names here. They've got to get some new players. I don't believe the AD carry is the one that they had other than Slayer. So we've got some fresh faces still. Support as well. Riley Sauce I do recognize for top lane. So this is a more established team. Curious to see how they do into the teams that are showing up into LXC for the first time. Excited to see Uwu Slayer play some of those mid lanes. I don't know if they keep the same champ pool of mages. Looks like from solo queue, yes, but solo queue never tells the full story. Maybe we could pick up a Yone game. That'd be fun. But a lot of Hui, a lot of Ziggs, a lot of Tristana. I mean, every mid laner's got to learn Tristana at some point this season. So I am excited to see how that goes with the mainstays of the top 3 from our second place team last split, and then 2 new players in the bot lane.
I figure out from chat what an OUG is. Do you know? They say give us an
I believe...
OUG, an OUG. OUG? They just want an OUG.
I'm not quite able to translate that either. I'm sure I'll think about it whenever I'm not on cast.
I think so.
Oh, they're
yeah,
asking for the monkey
like
noise?
monkeys.
Exciting.
Is that what they're looking for?
Uwu Slayer and the Monkeys. Classic team. Let's see if they can get uncaged in Sector 2. But for Sector 1, let's go back to that for a little bit and roll the wheel. Okay. So, Clown Gaming, I'm hearing, is pretty big org. New to LXC, I believe, or at least new to me. So, it's kind of interesting with LXC's growth. Sometimes you get some new people that are just like, hey, let's make an org. Let's see what orgs are tournaments are looking for teams. But sometimes you get some teams that have been around and like, hey, LXC's kind of looking up. Let's put a team in there. So, unfortunately, I am not really familiar with a lot of the other scene, but having them integrate into LXC is very exciting, especially with Warden. But here's a little bit into Crusader as well, which will really test our previous champions, see what they can do whenever their org comes in with more established coach and organization.
Yeah, so one thing to note about Clown Gaming, I believe at least Sems and Relics, I believe, are from Aegis. I think they are staff from Aegis's league. So they are a pretty big org. So it's definitely exciting to look at, see how they go into this and how they prepare for Crusader. And yeah, it'll definitely be an exciting one to watch. I want to see how they turn out, how they can really see what they can do in Crusader.
I think Sector 1 is going to be an exciting group. Is this the same as last time where we have 5 moving on? I believe we have 1 less team than Arbiter, but it should be the same. Yeah, so we'll have playoff of 10 teams, 5 from each. Because there's only 10 teams at least for this one, there's not going to be one sector with 6 removed. However, Sector 1 looks like those top 5 slots are going to be very competitive. Then again, Sector 2 can surprise you. I can't count, there's 14 teams, but still, top 5 move on. I forgot there were 2. Never mind, it's fine. Regardless, let's go back to Sector 2 and see if we can get some spice in there. So that way we don't see Sector 1 win the playoffs entirely.
Prodigies. Oh, yeah, I recognize the name. Could also be another one that I've scrimmed. I've scrimmed so many teams at this point, I don't remember all the names. Why can't I find them on here? Prodigies.
I believe there might be some information we don't have exactly. Okay, I see. We just have a wrong name for it.
Oh,
No
yeah.
biggie. Okay,
Gotcha.
so we've got Prodigies, another team that I don't recognize many of the names from, into Sector 2. Sector 2 is going to be quite the wild card. You're going to tune into Sector 2 and see some interesting games for sure. But for Crusader, that's kind of nice. At this level, things start to get a little bit, more refined, less like solo queue, and you can really shine some players that really can bring in the shot calling that makes them above the other teams. And then whenever you've got organizations like this, sometimes they can put the shot calling into a player that might not be ranked that high in solo queue, So see if that can happen for Sector 2. But we've got 2 teams left.
Yeah,
I'm
one more
really
wheel
curious
spin.
for both of them. Because both of these are teams that I was looking forward to, or talking about. Because both these teams I know a little bit about at least. We got well, let's talk about it whenever we get there. Looks like we're gonna talk about Dropping Point first. So they are also in Sentinel. Dropping Point has quite the roster here. So they've listed a lot of players. I don't think that they're going to play all of them. But I know some of their starting roster, at least, especially the jungle, is one of those like tried and true, calculated, like you do the same thing every time and it works. Excited to see that in coordinated play because I have not seen that yet from him. And then we've got some other players that are also strong in their role. I don't think that they've played together for very long. So curious to see if they can bring that synergy together.
Yeah, definitely one to look out for. I don't recognize any of these names. I do like the name F to Flash, but
Yeah, I don't know if he will be showing up for this team especially. I think he has other obligations, but he is technically on the roster. So we might see him once or twice, which would be very fun. I think that his AD carry brings something interesting to the game. But the other players I think I'm more interested in are gonna be Mednev for sure. I know that name at least. And probably Robust Octopus for the mid lane, if that is their starting mid laner. Definitely got some interesting mid laner champion pool as well. Especially TF. So I think TF really shines at around this level. It's where your team can play around the TF really well and the opposing team might forget once or twice. So excited to see DP go into Sector 1, which again, I think will be the harder sector. Here's where they go. We're going to spin here. Everyone knows what the result will be, though. And that'll be Syndicate Strokers. Now, Strokers, I believe, has played in this league before. They won it, in fact. I was just making sure before I said something. But yeah, they absolutely did win it. I don't believe they changed many of their players. I recognize Hep. The other ones maybe have changed. But our champions have got some new blood to pressure out because Sector 1 is where a lot of our established teams went, but the champions actually went to Sector 2. So Sector 2 immediately is going to be all these new teams trying out against the hammer that is our champions and seeing where they measure up. It'll be interesting to see if our champions just stay on top because they've organized, they've been here, they know what's up, or if the new blood makes them stretch out and pressure them and make them shape up to get into playoffs.
I'm laughing at chat over here. Apparently, Lucky
Yeah,
Man.
Chad has got some inside info that I'm not sure stream is really going to
not
share,
exactly.
but
Yeah, not stream appropriate, but it's funny. It's making me laugh at least. Silent Heart's being paid out to play top lane apparently.
yeah, Hep is a team, or Hep is a team. Hep is a player that won our split last time. And again, the 80 carry. Well, this is Sector 2, so both sectors have some really interesting teams. I think Sector 1 will be something you come back to and see the tried and true of what you saw last split. And Sector 2 is where you're going to see things heat up. and it's going to be really hard to tell which one's going to be stronger coming into playoffs because you don't exactly have the right barometer except for Syndicate Strokers in Section 2.
That's true. Sector 1 definitely seems to be a bit of the harder group here. I think the matches are going to be definitely exciting to watch. Sector 2, we'll have to just wait and see. I think it could definitely be also an exciting group, but Sector 1 might be the group of death to bring back the whatever the heck it is, the terminology that they always say at Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, again, there's only 2 sectors and half the teams make it, so you don't necessarily have to shine in your sector. At the
More than
same
half,
time,
5 out of
if
7.
you if you show up and you're 5th out of 7 in your sector, you better hope that your sector was the sector of death, because now you got 5 more teams coming from the other sector that haven't played against each other other than maybe scrims, and you've got to suddenly learn their strategies, get them in playoff mode, and you don't even know where they measure up necessarily.
Definitely be exciting to watch, though. Crusader. Speaking wrong. It is Crusader. Crusader is definitely going to be an exciting. Both groups are going to be fun to watch here. It's going to be a good time, I think. It's going to be some
Yes, and
crazy games.
we don't have to talk about Slayer versus Slayer until at most, the playoffs, so we're safe from that. There are definitely some names here that are going to be interesting to say, but at least I won't have to remember how to say uwu in a way that's stream appropriate. Yeah, that's Crusader basically. A lot of teams in here really excited for just seeing who makes it in the early standings, because normally, season standings don't matter as much unless you're worried about seed for blue side, red side. But with so many teams and so many people getting removed for playoffs, 4 teams in total, you gotta kind of step it up for regular season this time. I'm Engie, but I think we did it. We're here. We're here
we
for
back?
Wardens, who get their own special section. So let's talk about them, I guess. Okay, so Warden said this 3 times now, but they are the new league on Thursdays, because LXC will now be live on Thursdays with the highest ELO league that we're doing, the Diamond Plus League. And we've got some new organizations here, and RAR, and some other ones that, we've seen before. I'm surprised that RAR was able to have a Diamond roster.
Field a
It's really
Diamond
cool to see
team.
that.
Yeah.
But let's start with, alphabetical order. Akuma Shurikens. So a lot of these players are completely new to LXC. I recognize some of them, but for Diamond Plus, it really is going to be interesting to see how much synergy they have. Like, have they worked together before, or did we just get a roster together for Diamond Plus to see what happens,
Yeah, definitely be interesting. I'm looking at their OP.GG's Vakuma Shurikens right now. I'm seeing a lot of Bard on their 80 carry player, Dark Lord Oswald. So maybe we'll see some Bard 80 carry. I think that'd be fun. That'd be interesting to see.
I don't think that is what's going to be happening, but we'll see.
Hey, you never know. He's been playing.
It is nice to have support experience on your 80 carry. It really helps. I mean, I like, honestly, the most is for my support to have 80 carry experience, but second best is 80 carry having support experience. It just helps you know what to expect in the lane early, and to know kind of what you can face check and what you can't later in the game.
I always joke that
So
80 carry players make the best supports because they know exactly what the 80 carry wants. You're like, if you want to shove the wave, you know which ones you can last hit, because you go, oh, okay, I've done this before. I am an 80 carry player. I know what the 80 carry wants right now.
Exactly. But again, for these, we mostly have solo duo queue information, and I don't think that's going to be enough to really paint the picture. So the story of Warden is really going to be wait and see for our newest league. Come on Thursday and see a show.
Yeah, it'll definitely be exciting. It's always fun to watch Diamond players duke it out in the Rift. I don't know if you've ever spectated some Diamond Plus games just in solo queue, but it feels like a whole different game sometimes compared
Yeah.
to Gold, Plat. Yeah, it's crazy.
Now,
Order does
for
well.
Dropping Point Black Frost, which is our second team, they've got some names I've seen a little bit before, not necessarily on the Rift. I really am going to put a spotlight on the jungle champ pool. Some really nice ones here. You know, maybe meta at the time, which means you could be flexible, but still, like you've got the Skarner, Zyra, Lilia, and Viego. All of those champions have been really good this split, and that either means they got really lucky with what's strong right now, or they're able to switch it up depending on what the meta needs, which is something that's very strong at the higher levels. You know, if you're in Arbiter, you can play, you know, Pike mid or some interesting junglers, but at this level, having the top champion pool in your pocket and being able to switch to other champions is really nice.
You're right there. And yeah, looking through, I see Presidium, getting a little bit of Oriana in there. Of course, like you said, Tristana. Every mid laner's got to be learning Tristana this season. It's just the season of Trist, it feels like.
Yes, yes,
See some
absolutely.
Assassin play too there. He's got a lot of LeBlanc games. That'll definitely be exciting. LeBlanc's always a fun champion to watch. A lot of outplay potential, a lot of mechanically skilled plays that you can make with that champion. It's always fun. Always a fun one to watch. You got
Yeah, and
Chief Riven.
yeah. With their jungler having so many, like I mentioned that they were all meta, but they're also pretty much carry junglers. Having that strong mid jungle synergy where you've got a strong mid assassin and then that carry jungler can really make a difference in these coordinated play spots. But yeah, Sheesh Riven, I don't expect to see a lot of Riven here, but let me take a look. You know?
Checked earlier. I was not seeing any Riven in the. I don't think he's played a single one this season actually. So
Well, maybe saving it. You know, if you don't play in
yeah,
solo queue, it can't get banned in coordinated play, and then you're never gonna have a problem.
he's got 6 games on it last split, so we might see it. We could see it.
Yeah,
Now,
but excited to see Dropping Point join us with multiple or teams on multiple leagues. Curious to see what their top team can do for sure.
next team we got Ego Nog or Ego Nog, I guess is how that would be pronounced. And I'm actually seeing some familiar names on here. You got Dira on the roster, Badger, Artemis. So it looks like that's another org or another team that's owned by New Origins. It's like Dira's the
Yes.
manager. So at least we got some familiar faces there.
I do appreciate that you can kind of see the juxtaposition of the same organization in different leagues, see what they can bring to the same, like, are they junglers playing the same champions? Are they doing the same level ones? Or are they mixing it up and really, you know, keeping it separate per the league? And most importantly, are they stepping up and being in the top half of every league, you know? See what organization, specifically because we have faction wars as well, and all the organizations I believe are in the same factions together. More on that whenever the split starts. But basically, having an organization with a team in each league and having more control over how well your faction does would be especially rewarding.
Yes, that's definitely going to be true, especially with New Origins and RAR. They're having basically a team in every league. Didn't think of the word there. Lost my train of thought. But especially RAR, New Origins, it's going to be ones to keep an eye out for. See if maybe their playstyle will be the same. Maybe they're playing all the same champions. That'd be funny. Start scouting out for Ego Nog, and you're like, let's look at bare minimum. See what they've been playing. And next on
So
our list,
for NLE, we've got a roster that's been just updated. So there's still a work in progress, but we've got Piglet, which is a known person in the community, I'm pretty sure. And he's got a team here that
you've been
has
seeing in the chat.
rebranded, but really interested to see how that does. You know, NLD, again, another org in a lot of different leagues, but in Warden, got a new roster. I don't believe any of these names have played in LXC before. So, again, excited to see how they perform.
I'm looking at them. We got Fury in the top lane. Drew Games, I believe this is the name. In the jungle, Swifty, Piglet, and 80 carry, and then Autumn Cold, I think is how that's pronounced. It's spelled OTOM Cold. think it's supposed to be Autumn Cold. Or
I'm seeing a
Autumn.
very strong pattern in the top lane. I just like to point out things that I noticed huge patterns. So again, solo DOQ is so separate from coordinated play, this might not continue. But if Syntax brings the Aatrox and Renekton is allowed to bring it, because of course it might hit a ban with how much they play it, that will make top lane more exciting. And top lane always needs more excitement, is a personal feeling that I have. I'm not sure if any of you are aware.
An island.
Well, it could still be an island, but maybe the island will, have fireworks and fights that actually matter, and it's fine.
Like, you don't want to see two tanks duking it out, hitting each other with wet noodles? You don't think that's
Sometimes
exciting?
that's not the best. And as for Piglet, it's interesting to see a carry AD carry with a carry top laner. Sometimes it leads to nice situations where you've got the two-prong approach. Their assassin, what are they supposed to target? You target the AD carry and some of the Aatrox comes in and just 1v5s. But at the same time, it can also overexert your jungle. So curious to see if they can kind of work it out and say, I'll play the carry this time, you play the carry next time. Or if we're just going to see two carries trying to get all of the resources, and maybe it'll work out, because sometimes you just get enough resources for everyone.
One thing interesting that I'm seeing, it seems Autumn Cold might be a little bit of a one-trick that we're seeing here. I see a game of Pike, but it seems he's mostly Zilean. So that Zilean actually is interesting to me if he actually manages to get it. One-tricks always get banned out in competitive play, but if he gets that Zilean, it can do well to really enable those carry top laners and those carry AD carries. Like, they can just dive in if they know they have a Zilean in their pocket. Like, oh, well, who cares if I died? I got a free GA from the Zilean ult.
Well, the nice thing about having a one-trick support is that it's a role that's not usually targeted. So you can usually first pick Zilean, because they're going to have to ban the Aatrox, or they're going to have to ban Piglet's Vayne. So I think that actually having a bunch of one-tricks can be a secret synergy. Now, you do have to hope that your other one-tricks that don't get their champion can perform on other things. And again, solo queue doesn't determine everything. But I think that could work out in their favor at the end of the day.
Yep. Now I think on to our next team that everybody's been hoping for, waiting to hear about. We got RAR Street Logic in their Diamond roster.
Yes, and Positive Mental, which I really like. I don't think that's actually on the main roster, but
No,
sorry, it's the first one I saw signed up for the team. We got some really interesting names for sure. Specifically, Spear Queen, #Nida, who probably is like a Zyra main or something. But
maybe brand jungle main, I think. I think that's what I'm seeing here.
Right. Now, if you name yourself that and you play a lot of Nidalee, you're probably not going to get it a bunch. Nidalee also kind of is harder to make work in coordinated play. However, it still has room to grow at the diamond level. So I'm curious to see if that's one of the things that you get known for. That, oh, we're against RAR Street Logic, one of our bands is Nidalee, sorry. Or if we get to see if the Nidalee...
Oh, what happened? Did my audio just go out? Oh, okay. Well, I will continue to speak then. I hope Scarlet notices. But yeah, we got Milspec Leona playing support, and as you might guess, they might play a little bit of Leona. About 107 games to their next play, Nautilus. So we'll see. We're seeing a couple of one tricks in here. We got the not macro beast. We got the Spirit Queen, and we got the Milspec Leona. She ran out of mic juice. Just saying. But yeah, they got a couple of one tricks on this team, so you gotta know they're gonna get banned out. So they're in scrims, they're gonna be practicing anything but.
I just was too animated and unplugged my mic, which is a reoccurring problem. I thought I fixed it, but you know what? It happens. Sometimes you gotta just keep it down. RAR, slow it down. If their fourth RAR team, maybe this one will be less chaotic.
Yeah, as I was saying, they got a couple of one tricks on RAR's team. The Milspec Leona seems to be playing more Leona than anything else, and as you already mentioned, we got Spear Queen. Probably plays just a little bit of Nidalee, so you got to assume those picks are probably going to get banned out, and it's going to be exciting to see what they pull out instead.
Yeah, I mean, I know you said about the AD carry playing a lot of the theme stuff, but I think it's just meta stuff. I feel like AD carry. There are some champions that require a specific skill set, like Kai'Sa, Ashe, and Jhin. But then there are some that are just like, bread and butter. If you can play Xayah, you can play Zeri-ish, you can play Caitlyn, definitely. you can play all these other AD carries, and it's not that big of a deal.
Any AD carry player should be able to play Caitlyn. Like, let's be honest. Caitlyn's been around since season 2, 3. Like, everybody should know her. We got
Now,
Spirit Queen
this
saying
team.
she's an Aatrox jungle OTP.
Okay, yeah, let's ban Aatrox against her. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Leave Vanilli up.
This is the team I've been most interested in since I looked at the roster list. This is Seneca Esports, and they're actually a collegiate team, which is really exciting to see, like a more structured organization. Not saying that the organizations aren't structured, but they've definitely got a different feel to them than an actual collegiate team, who has more infrastructure and more emphasis placed into having that kind of hierarchy and support for their players.
So I keep
Seneca
mentioning it.
has, yeah, I mean, they have
I
10
think
players on their roster.
Yeah, I mean, they're a college team. You got to imagine how many players they got that tried out for that team. I imagine this is their varsity team, if I had to guess. So you got to imagine they gotta fill out their roster. They probably got many more players that wanted to play and just didn't make it onto the team. Like I was saying, I think I've actually scrimmed against their like gold and plat team before. I recognize the Seneca name, so they got multiple teams. I imagine this is their varsity team, and yeah, it's definitely exciting. I want to see how they go into this league, see what they're preparing for, how their coaching staff is going to be, and how just in general they treat the game.
Sorry, Spirit Queen kind of got me with that comment. She said, I'm close enough to gank your team IRL during games. You better not ban Italy. Regardless, having an actual collegiate team is really cool for LXC. It's really the first of its kind for us. Warden in general is really cool for LXC to have this level of play. And I'm just really excited for Thursday, especially. I think if you're only going to watch one LXC day each week for at least the regular season, you should really make it out to Thursday. There's going to be some amazing new talent and new different types of playing for LXC.
I just saw Piglet say they about to get freedom diffed.
Well, I mean, yes, they are from Canada, but Canada is still NA. It still has pretty good ping to our servers, so I think their play will probably not be that different.
We'll have to see. Like I said, they are, or like we were talking about, they are a collegiate collegiate team.
Look,
So I'm excited to see their prep for games, see how they truly treat this
all I'm
game.
gonna say is that for a collegiate team, if an NA team was a collegiate team, they'd have to buy the crappiest computers because they have all these student loans. But Canada, they're chilling. They get the really nice computers because
They got
their
free
loans are
healthcare
like
too.
$2. Yeah, I think they might actually surprise you with how well their computers run. Their gamer chairs are able to move them through the LXC. As for the individual players, like I actually do not recognize many of them, but like you said, there's so many, not just on the roster, but in general in a collegiate team. If something happens, you can move them in or out. This isn't a team that's going to go and have a total collapse or anything. And it also is a team that's just going to have a huge variety. So like, your support or your AD carry is like, I kind of want a support that can play more up or more aggressive or more mage style. They probably got a person for that.
Sure they do. So peeking at the ready carry a little bit here. Seeing Tristana, some Zeri. Zeri's always a fun one to watch. It's a great champion. She's always fun to see and play.
Yeah, I mean, again, these teams will be all playing each other. There's no split up because of the only 8 teams, or I can count. There's 6 teams. Yeah, so they will be playing each other a lot before playoffs, which will really give them some time to learn. Maybe we should ban Italy against Spear Queen. I mean, I think they can figure that out from game 1, but you never know. Regardless, you're going to see them play against each other a lot, which really sets up for playoffs and best of 5s to really be at their highest level. I think whenever you go into playoffs, having played a team twice or 3 times in the last month, Plus to 5 gets really interesting already, especially whenever you're talking about the Diamond Plus team members who are going to be contributing to that draft. So Warden playoffs are going to be exciting. But overall, right, this is all 4 of our groups. We've got Arbiter on Monday, Sentinel on Tuesday, Crusader on Wednesday, Warden on Thursday. I think all of them are going to be exciting. The fact that there are groups will really lead to nice storylines in Arbiter and Crusader. For Sentinel, we've got so many new teams and old teams that will mix and match a lot. And then Warden, again, just having all of these orgs show up with their best players and a collegiate team to duke it out on each other will be very exciting. Now, for this week, this was the pre-show week, so there is no more streams for this week. But starting next week, there will be a stream on Monday for Arbiter on the 15th. Then the 16th, there will be Sentinel, 17th will be Crusader, and 18th will be Warden.
That is correct. And yeah, I think I'm signed up for Monday with you, Scarlett, I think. So we'll be back together again.
That does sound right. No. Monday you've got Noah. Sorry. I am not very I just like put my name and then I forget it, just dump it out, and then I look on the day of or the week of like I'm streaming today. Okay, let me look at the teams and stuff.
Right now, like when can I cast, when can I scrim, and when do I have matches?
Right, but either way, Monday being the first day of LXC is very, very exciting. And again, the draw show is fun, but I think to really get to know these teams, you're gonna have to see them play. So definitely show up on Monday, ready to see what Arbiter brings to the table. Yes, you've seen some of them before, but they've all got new teammates and they've all got new opponents for sure. And I think regular season is going to start out pretty strong for sure.
I'm definitely excited to see this. I'm hoping the schedule gets posted soon. We all want to know what the matchups are going to be for week 1, I'm sure. But yeah, it's going to be definitely looking like an exciting split. What are you most looking forward to, Scarlett? What do you want to see?
Well, I've talked about Warden enough, but honestly, I want to see the different storylines in Crusader and Arbiter between the two groups, because it can be kind of interesting. Like, you're second in your group and you're like going to the playoffs, you're like, I've only got one team above me, surely I'm fine. And then you face the worst team, the 5th team from the other group, and suddenly they come out of nowhere and destroy you. I mean, that's something that could absolutely happen. And the teams, the viewers, the analysts are all going to be talking to each other like, which section is stronger? Which one do you think is actually going to take the trophy when it comes to playoffs? And that's something that's going to last all regular season long. So I think I'm looking forward to that the most.
Any predictions from the start now, before the season even starts? Who do you think?
Rara is going to play on Warden at least once, and it's going to be very funny. Or Doki's going to play. Did I say Rara? Doki's going to play at Warden at Rara at least once, and it's going to be very funny.
Oh yeah, it's going to be hilarious to see.
Other predictions. I think our previous champions are going to run into some trouble that they're not used to. Not to say that, LXC was easy before, but you've added in so many new teams, it can't by definition be easier, So any team that comes in is like, I've gotten second place multiple times, it's going to be super easy, we're going to cruise through. I think they've got to start at 100 from the regular season, because in Crusader and Arbiter, so many teams are going to be saying goodbye in playoffs.
Yeah. My prediction, of course, I vote Veracity's going to run away with it in Sentinel. We got returning champion Prowl on our team. I think we got a good shot.
Oh yeah, you think so? Is that your unbiased opinion? Okay, yeah.
Completely unbiased. Completely.
Well, I'll hold you to that. Good luck.
Yeah.
I think Tuesday is my off day, so I might not be casting you, but I'll be watching the score at least.
Don't want to spoil anything, but I know who our stream match is going to be against. Not spoiling anything for too early for that.
Either way, we will get the schedule out as soon as possible. Again, Monday will be the first stream. Thank you guys so much for coming to our Draw Show Part 2. Sorry it got bisected, I'm sure.
I am not a king.
Unfortunately, not able to make it to the second part, but we appreciate it. And we will see you Monday. I think you cut me off early. That's really funny.
I am not a king. I am not a god. I am worse. Now, I am the world ender! Snuff out the light. I shall make darkness eternal.